Joined now by Elaine Parker. She's the Job Creator Network Foundation president, one of the great sponsors of TaxCutsWork.com. That's where you go to tell your story about how tax cuts work for you. Elaine, good morning. Thank you for being up early.
Good morning, Hugh. Thank you so much for having me.
As Florence bears down on the coast, I think of the good and the bad of the tax cuts. The good is that people are going to have more money to rebuild with. The bad is the casualty loss is gone from the tax code, be part of the simplification process. What do you think the net will be for tax reform for people who are in the path of this storm?
You know what, Hugh, let me just start out by saying my heart goes out to the folks in North and South Carolina. I live in South Florida and have been right in the path of many hurricanes, most recently Hurricane Irma last year. I encourage everyone to listen to their local government if they're encouraging them to evacuate. Listen to them, because it is no joke when this thing comes and bears down on you, and there's a point where it's too late to get out.
Yep.
So you need to listen. It's really important for folks to heed those warnings for sure.
Back to the tax cuts and their impact on people when they rebuild. I know that they will have more money in their pocket when they rebuild, but I do worry about the casualty loss, and I think we'll hear from the left now about whether or not the casualty loss deductions elimination was a good or a bad idea. You prepared to defend it?
Absolutely. I mean, I talk to small business owners every day. Our members are Main Street small business owners. And when you look at the 20% tax deduction that they are able to utilize and that immediate expensing and write-off, right now and this year we have members who have been purchasing equipment and expanding their business, and they're able to immediately write those costs off. And if we've got folks who unfortunately lose their businesses or their buildings or equipment in this storm, and they're able to obviously repurchase and rebuild, then that is going to help them even more.
And I've also heard that Congress will move in with a casualty loss particular to the event, that's their plan. Just get rid of it generally, but move in generally. Let me ask you about yesterday's consumer small business number. The index for the first time in 45 years crossed 108. It's off the charts. It's the highest it's ever been, including Reagan years.
You know what? This economy is on fire. We've got employment rate that has remained below 4% for the fifth month in a row. And we haven't seen employment that low for that long since the Vietnam War. We've got job creation numbers that are beating expectations every single month, and a GDP that has surpassed 4%. And that's fantastic. And actually, Hugh, this is a good opportunity. We are going to be releasing and announcing a new partnership tomorrow with pollster Scott Rasmussen. The name of the poll is going to be the Weekly Pulse, and it's a monthly monitor. We're going to be tracking, we're going to be issuing a survey of 1,000 Americans every week about their attitudes on the economy, and we'll be asking what they think about their personal circumstances, the jobs market, and a series of other questions, just based on what's going on in the news. And so we're really going to hear what people think and how they feel, and we're going to know when that changes and what's going into those changes.
When will where will people find the Weekly Pulse? At TaxCutsWork.com?
They actually can go to the Job Creators Network Foundation website, which is jcnf.org.
jcnf.org, okay.
And the first survey comes out tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time.
Well, Scott's a terrific pollster, and so that will be amazing to see what these small businesses. You want to give me a preview, a tip? You think the news in that is going to impress voters not to mess around with changing leadership in the House in order to imperil these tax cuts?
I think we're going to learn a lot about people's perceptions and what they're feeling, which is much more important many times when we're staring at elections, especially an election as important as this one coming up. And their perceptions are much more important than what the folks in Washington are saying. You make no mistake, this is a big choice election that's going to determine the future of America. And we really have to decide as a country, do we want to be like Venezuela, or do we want to continue having the lowest Black and Hispanic unemployment? Do we want to have an economy that's on a rocket ship the way it is with the 4% or more GDP and an unemployment under 4%? So that's the choice that we have to make.
Elaine Parker of the Job Creators Network Foundation, thank you. Get the Weekly Pulse tomorrow at jcnf.org.